Good morning. I'm very glad to welcome the Prime Minister of North Macedonia, Dimitar Kovačevski, in Delphi. It's a great pleasure, thanks. And I think it was in 1993, February 1993, when Konstantinos Mitsotakis, the late father of today's Prime Minister of Greece, said something that sounded very cynical in Greece, and it provoked a huge roar. He said that in 10 years' time, he was referring to the discussion about the name of your country. So he said that in 10 years' time, we will have forgotten this discussion. There's no problem. So perhaps it was not 10 years, it was 30 years. But do you believe that he was finally right?
Well, 1993, February, I remember I was in the States studying high school. And at that time, one of the first to see the flag of, at that time, newly founded country in the United Nations in front of the building. Theoretically, yes, but then the question is which 10 years? Because it's been 25 years that took in order two strong and courageous politicians in 2018 to make one of the toughest decisions and to reach an agreement, which agreement opened the door that today we can sit here and talk about economic cooperation, that we can talk about European cooperation, integration, and that decision actually was the key that North Macedonia today is a member of NATO, and it's a step in front of opening the good negotiations with the European Union. So all in all, it's one of the biggest decisions, which deserves credit from everyone in the region and wider in Europe. It's been an emotional question. Emotional questions, that's why I said, depends on which 10 years. They tend to be more long-lasting, but I believe that the values which the resolution brought will be the basis for great future cooperation and development of the relationship between two countries, but also within the whole region.
And I think that Greece today is a strong, a valuable ally of North Macedonia. I think there is only a detail of the 3 memoranda being ratified in the Greek parliament. I don't know if this has a symbolic more than real significance, isn't it so? So
Greece has been...
cooperation is already taking place.
Greece has been from the very beginning of the country an ally in many areas, especially the banking sector, in construction, in many other industries. And we are aware about the 3 memorandums which are still not brought, but I believe that they are not of that significance that can spoil the good relations between the two countries. These 3 memorandums are in the field of security, European Union, and economic development. They are brought by our parliament because we saw and recognized the benefits of their content. And I also believe that in the Greek parliament, there will be a moment when the members of parliament will realize their importance, and they will be also voted here in the parliament in Greece.
So the main problem now is coming from Bulgaria, I understand. There are some problems there. I have the feeling that the new Prime Minister is more positive, but there was a census last year, and we learned the results just last week, and there was a problem there with how many Bulgarians declared, how many citizens of North Macedonia declared Bulgarians. Is this a real problem, or things are going fast between the two countries?
Well, the two new governments came into positions closely one to another at the beginning. One at the end of the previous year, one at the beginning, ours at the beginning of this year. So immediately we started a new dialogue because previously for let's say a year or more than a year, the dialogue between the two countries was not existent, and the media was practically dominated by propagandists and by individuals and groups which do not want to see any agreement in place. That is why with the Prime Minister of Bulgaria and the two governments, we established a cooperation within areas which are forward-looking and which can be of benefit for all the citizens of the two countries. The other stakeholders like the economic chambers, educational institutions, and others. On the other side, this gives results as there are concrete, tangible benefits, and as well there is ongoing political dialogue between the Ministries of Foreign Affairs for the open political questions. The census in the country was conducted based on the best European practices. It was including experts from the European Union, and it is now sent to Eurostat, and as soon as it will be approved, it will become part of the European statistics. So every person was free to say its opinion about all the personal questions, and I believe that this is a basis that everyone in the country can feel free on all their questions and all self-determinating questions which they can publicly answer. We have proved in the past years, especially after 2001, that North Macedonia is a society for all its citizens. You know that our constitution is a place not only for the Macedonians but also for the other ethnic communities which live in the country and persons with other self-determination. And this process and this constitutional principles in the country allow also for others, including Montenegrins, Croats, Bulgarians, through a constitutional procedure to become part of the constitution. At the same time, we have other institutions, and we are probably one of the rare or maybe the only country in Europe which has a ministry for minorities. We also have all the laws which are protecting the languages of smaller ethnic communities. So in that regard, all people's rights in the country are protected on very high level, and they are brought to a very high pedestal. On the other side, this country, North Macedonia, wants to join the European Union. By joining the European Union, every citizen becomes a citizen also of the European Union. And recalling only on the last press conference of the President of the European Commission gave in Sofia, that the negotiation framework and the rules and procedures and directives in the European Union are full-fledged basis for protection and improvement of all the minority rights in every member country.
But it seems that there are some also external factors that are influencing the relations between the two countries. I heard Mr. Petkov saying recently that there were Russian spies influencing and trying to deteriorate the relations between the two countries, which is quite, I mean, it's not so surprising, but it's very important. Do you have this feeling as well? I heard yesterday Mr. Alexis Tsipras saying here in Delphi that thanks to Prespa agreement, we don't have Russia to our borders. Is this also your feeling? Is Russian infiltration in North Macedonia and the Balkans generally so deep, so worrying?
The Western Balkans and the Balkans at all has always been a sphere of interest, also for Russia and other countries.
China as well, I suppose.
And China as well. So in the past, we can see their economic presence in the region, in practically all the countries, including Greece and the others. We have a clear goal, and we have a clear understanding between all the major political parties in the country, especially the ones which are forming the government, on our path to the European Union. And due to this, we have always stayed on this path. On the other side, there are individuals, but there are also political parties in the parliament and out of the parliament, which are clearly in the country against the European Union and against the membership in NATO. So now it is up to us and up to the European Union to deliver on the promise, because you know that North Macedonia brought one of the biggest decisions in the past, and the EU simply didn't deliver at that moment. There was a lot of debating, but without a clear action. So I believe now is the time, because now the enlargement is not simply a question of enlargement, but it is a question of geostrategical importance in light of everything what is happening in Ukraine, and in light of all the hybrid attacks, and in light of all the misinformation which are happening in the region especially, that this question should be, as soon as possible, addressed and solved, first with a mutual agreement between North Macedonia and Bulgaria, and with, as soon as possible, approval of the negotiation framework by the European Union.
Is it true that the public opinion of North Macedonia is less positive towards the accession because of all the delay of all these years of what has happened? There is a kind of, like in Turkey, for example, there is a kind of disappointment and in the public opinion.
So every process which lasts almost 18 years, normally, and when it is not finished, then normally it creates disappointment. Even now, if we see the polls, then it's clear that European Union has accession, has support within the majority of the citizens of the country, which is at around of 70%. But by not delivering and by not taking concrete steps, then this support will go down normally, and the Euroscepticism, as propagated by persons and individuals which are against, can get ground. So it is up to us, the decision makers in North Macedonia, but also up to the decision makers in Brussels, to make a step forward and to make the necessary decisions, I would say, within the French presidency of the European Union. Because we do not want to find ourselves in a situation where people by automatism would be positive to a certain question just because the question is here for decades, and not to feel it as a question which they would not seek another alternative. So the good thing is, at this moment, that there is no other alternative, that we as a government made all the necessary decisions as members of NATO in regards to unity with our partners in NATO, but also as a country which looks forward to become member of the European Union. We fully aligned our international foreign policy with the EU countries in relations to Russia and in relations to the conflict which Russia started in, actually the war that Russia started in Ukraine.
We have an invasion, we have a disastrous war, we have a Russian invasion in Ukraine. We have North Macedonia taking, the government, of North Macedonia taking a very strong position, also expulsion of some diplomats, isn't it so? And North Macedonia being included by Moscow in the unfriendly countries. So I'm seeing in Europe right now two movements which are kind of contradictory. The one movement is the leader of VMRO went to congratulate and taking selfie with Orban. And you have also a small party, which the left party, which met with the Russian ambassador. And also you have the election of Vučić in Serbia. So you have several things that are moving against united Europe, against European stability. And at the same time, this war is convincing Europe that things must move. And they must move with Ukraine being included in Europe, but also perhaps with the Western Balkans, the fastest possible to be included in Europe in order to face this destabilization. So how do you see that this war can work positively for Western Balkans, or these movements are really worrying?
Well, no war can work positively for anyone and anywhere. This is for sure, because I'm coming from a country which was part of a non-existing country which ended up in war. So at the end of the day, the economic devastation, the brain drain, the very foggy future after these wars will not benefit anyone. So from that perspective, I want to send another appeal that this war should stop immediately, as it will not bring benefit to anyone. And even if we see the situation now in Ukraine, we see that practically Russia has not achieved anything so far, except for creating the biggest energy and the biggest food crisis, creating the biggest economic crisis in Europe especially, but in the world after the Second World War.
But because of that, things are turning more and more violent because of what you said.
In terms of the orientation of North Macedonia and all the decisions that we made, I can only repeat one more time that we are very strong in our cooperation with all our allies. I'm saying as a government. I cannot comment who is taking selfies with whom, because I don't do chronicles to politicians in the country. I know about my pictures, so from these last 2 days, the people got to see my meetings with the Special Envoy of the United States for Western Balkans, Mr. Escobar, then with the Prime Ministers of the region. Today I will have a meeting with the Prime Minister of Greece, Prime Minister of a country with whom we have a great cooperation, country which is doing the air policing over North Macedonia in the framework of the NATO cooperation. On Monday we have a big exercises in Skopje, NATO exercises, which show the unity but also preparedness of the country. We have shown that we are indispensable partner of NATO, not in terms only of decisions, but also in terms of the aid which we have provided to Ukraine and to the Ukrainian people, and also the preparedness of the country to accept the refugees from Ukraine and to include them in the society, because it's not only to accept the refugee, but also they have to be included, as some of them have to go in schools, some of them have to go in kindergartens, and our country is ready to accept them and to provide them life not like at home, but to feel like at home in North Macedonia.
Last question: how do you see the war taking end? Sooner, later? What's your prediction? What's your feeling?
The sooner, the better.
Okay. But what's your feeling?
My feeling is that if the European Union and NATO countries, together with the allies, because not all the countries which share the values of NATO are members of NATO, but they are in cooperation with NATO. Also, we as a country are not members of the European Union, but someone who shares the values, the principles, behaves based on these values and principles, and that is why we fully aligned our foreign policy and our decisions with the ones of the European Union. Show the clear unity, and all the sanctions which are imposed to Russia are not sanctions imposed to the Russian people, but to the Russian regime which started this unprovoked war on a sovereign country, Ukraine. So I cannot predict the actions of the leadership of Russia, but at the end, everybody will be in a losing position, as the economic consequences which we see not only on the Russian people, not only on the Ukrainian people, but on all the people in Europe, are a lesson that peace is of utmost importance for Europe. Europe had not had any major war conflict after the Second World War, and this is a lesson that we have to have cooperation improved in order not to have situations like this. This is also a message to the European Union in relation to the EU enlargement, that the better economic ties, the better cooperation between the countries of the Western Balkans is actually investment in the future peace of this region, which is an immanent part of Europe. And without this part, Europe cannot be complete in front of the other frontiers around the world.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
Thank you.
It's an honor.